only the beginning. Didn't take long for the news cycle to deliver on the headline in Wednesday's front page editorial in Belgian broadsheet Le Soir. There you see it at the bottom of the page there. With news of a fourth Brussels bomber on the run, and the chilling claim by the head of European intelligence that there are an estimated 5,000 radicals possibly worth monitoring. How did we get to 5,000? Clearly, there's also an intelligence gathering failure, a failure of authorities or of communities accused of not saying something when they see something. And there's intelligence sharing also. At EU headquarters this Thursday, Interior and Justice ministers from 28 nations with the usual big announcements expected, but are they really working together? Can they finally agree on common rules and common values in this fight? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at Europe's soft targets. With us, Régis Le Sommier, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Paris Match magazine, whose latest book in French is, I guess you translate as Dash the Story So Far.
The story so far. It's an ongoing story, as we can see.
French member of the European Parliament, Constance Le Grip of the Conservative Les Républicains Party. Welcome back. And Yasser Louati, spokesperson for the Collective Against Islamophobia. Nice to see you again. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Before we look at the latest in Brussels, how about this statement from a speech delivered Wednesday at Stanford University in California by U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton? She takes direct aim at Europe's security and intelligence lapses.
Our enemies are constantly adapting, so we have to do the same. For example, Brussels demonstrated clearly we need to take a harder look at security protocols. Right now, many European nations don't even alert each other when they turn away a suspected jihadist at the border or when a passport is stolen.
And on that score, Constance Le Grip, we've now discovered the Dutch confirming that news that was first revealed by the Turkish president on Wednesday, that one of the suicide attackers, Ibrahim El-Bakraoui, was deported to the Netherlands.
Yeah, obviously there have been failures in the intelligence sharing and in the exchange of information. This is really a big threat towards Europe that we are now facing, and we need to answer and to have a common European answer.
Because many of our viewers before this week weren't even aware that with the Schengen zone, nations weren't really entering data into the common database.
No, we have.
Is that something you knew about?
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, we know that there are three big databases, the Schengen Information System, then you have the Schengen Visa Information System, and you have Eurodac. But yeah, there isn't enough commitment. There is enough work done by different member states, and not all the data are collected, that's for sure. We knew this, of course, and we are claiming things month and month and month, especially in the European Parliament, in my political group, for more cooperation, more coordination, and more and strong relationships between the different European countries, of course. Yeah.
Régis Le Sommier, what's your reactions to the statement by Hillary Clinton there?
Well, I think my reaction to what you just said, I mean, this is very scary because you are in the heart of Europe, you're in the Parliament, and you're telling us that nothing was really taken into consideration, and that
not nothing.
But
we knew the
there
failures.
were so many loopholes in the system.
Absolutely.
That, and given from a member of the Parliament, I think this is worrying for everybody to discover that we have spoken about this European Union. We've tried to move forward. Build laws together. Try to better what we thought with bettering our security. And in fact, we're realizing with these terror attacks, which are not perfect. I mean, these, I would say these terror attacks are pale to 9/11 when you think about the logistics that 9/11 needed. Take airplanes, crash them in towers. It takes some, it takes some time. It takes a lot of resources. This time around, you have a bunch of jihadists that are skilled, that are trained, but that are, using soft targets, aiming at soft targets. They're entering by every means they can. But we thought before there was talking about the exchange of information, we've discovered after, it was very, very little news after November 13, that the Belgian police couldn't match in their computer the fiche S that were in France. The file S, where somebody is supposed to radicalize, or somebody who
they put a letter S next to those who are suspected
and
radicals.
it was not matching their system, which is amazing when you think about it, because we, for a long time, we knew there was difference between, the police, the British police, the American, system. But with the Belgium and the French, we thought they were working hand in hand. And apparently they weren't. So
they weren't.
That's very, very worrying. And I think there's a need of a shake-up. And what, we've said is that when 9/11 triggered in the U.S. a massive security reaction.
It feels like Groundhog Day when you're saying this, Régis, because I'm sorry to interrupt. We had this exact same discussion 4 months ago after the Paris attacks.
Yeah, and it's like we're watching every attack. We mourn. We try to hug each other until we wait for the next attack to happen. Which is, and what is amazing, I think, is that we don't know what exactly is going on. We don't really know if the police has what if there were failures of information of intelligence. Shouldn't there be like a hearing, like in the U.S. after 9/11, where every what we need to know more and we don't know, and that's, I think, very, very worrying, and I'm not surprised that a lot of people are angry because of that.
Yeah. Yes, Arloati, do you share that anger?
First, the Belgians are still mourning, and I would like at least for us to remain respectful toward their pain and grief. And for many politicians in France, they seize the opportunity to start putting the blame on Belgian authorities, forgetting the fact that France itself was victim of two waves of terrorist attacks within 11 months. That's, of course, a sign of blatant failure of our own intelligence agencies in France, and that's also the statement made by John Brennan from the CIA. And at the same time, we had no official hearing on where did we fail. How can we speak about a European cooperation at the intelligence level, while at the same time in France itself, there is no real cooperation between various intelligence agencies, and that we are still feeling the brunt of Nicolas Sarkozy's reorganization of our domestic intelligence. At the same time, we should not forget, as said, for example, both directors of the DGSE and DGSI, that we can put all the security measures we want. The first question to ask is, why do these people do these things?
I don't want to get into a pure political debate with Nicolas Sarkozy's responsibility or Bernard Cazeneuve's
not a politician,
responsibility.
madam. I'm just making a statement.
No, absolutely. And I don't want to answer on these particular issues, but I'm not blaming the Belgian authorities. Of course, I'm speaking as a very humble member of the European Parliament, of course, French, but I mean, I'm a European citizen, and then I can declare that there has been failures, of course, and there.
But it doesn't seem to be the French way, does it? What Régis and Yasser were saying, this idea of an American-style task force with proper hearings where you get witnesses who can speak.
Well, the European Parliament, I don't think that the European Parliament has the competence to have. Yes, but there is a hearing. There is a committee, a special committee, which has been established in the National Assembly. But it's not
honestly,
for the moment.
We know that the CIA there was a failure of exchange of information between the FBI and the CIA after 9/11. This has been said. There's been commission. There's been hearings about that. We know, everything pretty much. We know the name of the people. We know even the name of the CIA operatives now. But when are we?
And there was a
know?
complete shakeup of the New York City police force.
Absolutely.
If you want.
And there was Patriot Act also, which was a consequence of 9/11, if you will. But. I'm not judging whether Patriot Act is good or not, but what I'm saying is that there's a failure now of knowledge on the part of the people, on the part of the authority to the people.
We all want to know, and we all have to inquire. And if we need official inquiries to know exactly what happened after and before and during the Paris attacks, and after, before, and during the Brussels attacks, of course, we'll have to have these inquiries.
That
Absolutely.
demand for more to be said echoed on the hashtag F24 debate. The Brussels attacks are a very serious indicator that current security measures are not sufficient since they take place so shortly after the Paris slaughter. And again, if you're just joining us, Turkey's president accusing Belgium of dropping the ball on one of the suicide attackers, with Ankara saying they warned Brussels when they deported Ibrahim el-Bakraoui to the Netherlands.
The deportation took place on the 14th of July 2015 and was administratively recorded. A memo was sent to the embassy in Brussels, and the Belgians let this person go. Despite our warnings that this person was a foreign terrorist fighter, the Belgian authorities could not identify a link to terrorism.
Now, for his defense, the justice minister says, yes, Ibrahim el-Bakraoui was a convicted felon, but he was unknown for acts of terror. Belgian television, VRT, following up, asking Koengins why el-Bakraoui was able to skip parole.
It's not easy to put people back in jail when they flagrantly break their parole conditions, as was probably the case with Mr. Bakraoui. It's not easy to put them back in jail.
Now, the Belgian Prime Minister has rejected his resignation, which he tendered, saying you have to stay on for now. Same with the Interior Minister.
This is totally unacceptable to hear this, because Ibrahim el-Bakraoui was taken in Gaziantep. Well, no, Gaziantep is close to the Syrian border. Now, was he returning from Syria? Was he trying to go to Syria? We don't know. But he was certainly not in Gaziantep for tourism. And why he was expelled from, Erdogan says, gives a proper date, but he doesn't really say what el-Bakraoui was doing. We need to know more. I mean, if I would be the justice minister in Belgium right now, I will tell my population, okay, we had a failure, but this guy was doing so and so. We don't know if he's a returnee. We don't know if he was trying to go.
All right, the Dutch say he wasn't on any list of ours, but he was, because
But Gaziantep,
when you're
for Christ's sake.
when you're deported, you can choose your destination. So he didn't choose Belgium; he chose the Netherlands, saying he wasn't on any list of ours.
Yeah.
Should the Dutch have told the Belgians there, hey, wait a minute, we've got this guy coming from
Well,
Gaziantep?
probably. And then look at the past of Ibrahim the brothers el-Bakraoui. They're known for carjacking. One of them was a famous carjacker. The other one was a gangster of high profile. So they had a criminal record. And these people coming back from Turkey, at least one of them, shouldn't it trigger more than just say they were on our list? I mean, come on. This means, I hope it's not the case at any time, but it means that every time you have somebody coming back, they don't check the records. I mean, that's totally unacceptable.
All right, one of the storms that's come up this week is, so you're saying they should resign?
Well, yeah, but then again, would
Not
that
in this
change the
moment.
system? I don't know.
Not in that moment.
Well, at least they had the dignity of handing in their resignation, unlike the government here in place in France that after failing to protect us twice, not only stayed in power, but nobody got sacked, nobody resigned, nobody took responsibility, and instead cracked down on democracy and the rule of law.
Well, France right now under a state of emergency. Is it the right time to be resigning?
Before.
Constance Le Grip on this?
No, you are not resigning when you are in the middle of the action. I mean, but I understand what you're saying. The question of dignity of politicians has to be.
Madam, I agree with you. It's twice. Okay, January we got hit, then November, and then you flee forward with all these anti-rule of law, measures, permanent state of emergency, dividing the people with this, citizenship stripping, etc. You're not only not having enough dignity to take responsibility, at the same time, you are dividing your own people and torpedoing the rule of law in this country. And we know the excesses of the state of emergency.
All right, the fight this week going on inside the chamber where you sit, the European Parliament, the French Prime Minister taking aim at the European Parliament for not yet passing that passenger name records bill, which would enable the 28 to share amongst each other the flight plans and of all passengers over a 5-year period. We put the question on the France 24 debate Twitter account, should EU nations share passenger name records? 75% said yes, but there were those who said it's a privacy issue, and besides, a lot of these attackers, they don't take the plane.
Exactly.
Yes, of course, they don't take the plane at the Brussels bombers, and probably the Paris bombers didn't take the plane just before.
Has the European Parliament been slow? Has the European Parliament been slow in approach?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely in favor of the very rapid and quick adoption of this text. You know, the directive on PNR had been put on the table 5 years ago, and since 5 years we lost a lot of time. Yes, of course. It's not the absolute tool, of course. It's one of the tools, but now it has become a symbol. PNR has become a symbol of weakness or the absence of willingness of the European institutions and the European countries. So we have to adopt the PNR directive very soon.
Yes, Alouati?
The question is, where do you store the data and what do you do with it, and what oversight can you put in place to avoid the intrusion into people's private lives? And that's a much wider debate, because of course it sounds good to have a PNR. It could be a good idea, but then what do you do next? Don't forget, Sir mentioned the Patriot Act, and we know where it led. It started with, the Conservatives adopting a strict, security agenda, and then we had Edward Snowden revealing how mass surveillance was adopted after 9/11.
But then again, no major attacks since 9/11. That's the argument.
All right, we're going to pick up on these points when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.